Hey everybody, welcome to the start of another week. It's my morning run, and I get to share with you today a really cool conversation I had last week with two really good guys. One of them I knew, one of them I just met, Cash and Connor. So they're both artists in their own right, DJs too, I learned, which is cool. Cash comes from Pixar, and Connor comes from all over. He's done a little bit of everything, it seems like. Got a car coming. All right. But it was a really good conversation because they've started up a brand new thing called Thoughtful3D, which is a mentor offering website. It's pretty neat. So they're putting themselves available to help the next generation of CG VFX artists, learn not learn the software. There's YouTube for that. There's schools for that. There's countless resources online, that people are just, students nowadays just have right at their fingertips. But they're there to teach more of those foundational skills. How to be an artist in this crazy industry, how to have a long career, how not to get burned out, how to talk to people, how to take constructive critique, all of these very, very important skills that I didn't realize were so important when I was in school, and boy, I wish I did, because then I wouldn't have had to have, learned the hard way on the floor, in studios, trial and error. So they're there to guide new artists, and I think it's just such a cool idea. They're two really cool guys with just decades of experience in this industry. So I hope you guys really enjoy the conversation, and let us know at VFXTalk what you think. What do you think of these outside intros? I think it's just nice to see a little bit of sunshine as VFX artists, but I want to know your opinions about everything, because this is why we're doing these talks for you guys. So if you guys have any suggestions too of anybody else that you would like us to talk to, we're booked up for next couple months, but then we're actively looking for new people to bring in and talk to. So please let us know your suggestions. Like and subscribe, hit that bell, yada yada yada, and let's hear your voice in the comment section. So all right, again, I will stop rambling, and you guys get to go enjoy a really cool show. So here comes Cash and Connor. See you guys.
So I appreciate the general attitude, the optimism, and let's call it resilience in a volatile industry.
Yeah, I think that's going to be I think we should talk all about that. I think we should talk about resilience. I think if you guys are ready, we can start the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody settled? Well, I would love to start out with introductions. So, Cash, you're on my left, so you go first, buddy.
Sure. I'm Mike Cacciamani. Everyone calls me Cash. I've been working in the industry now 15 years, a little over, almost exclusively lighting and almost exclusively in animated feature films. I've done 5 years or 6 years at Animal. I've done 6 years at Pixar. And I'm now part of Thoughtful3D as a resident mentor.
That's great. Yeah. And Connor, let's hear from you.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm Conor Woodard. I have been in the 3D industry since 2011. And before that, I was an artist, a designer. During that time, I've been an artist in many different disciplines in media. I've started a few different businesses. I've worked in audio, video, visual, 3D for television and streaming. I have started a fair share of companies, and the latest one is Thoughtful3D, where we're helping artists establish their stability. And one of the best people in the world that I know to help me do that with is Cash. So Cash and I are both working on that together. And it's been a long, varied road.
That is a life in the VFX industry. It's the kind of the nomadic gypsy. Sometimes you get to set up roots if you're lucky, but it's not the norm. So yeah, and I'm so thankful you guys came on today, and you made some time for me, because I saw Cash's post on LinkedIn about Thoughtful, and read kind of the mission of what you guys are trying to do. And then Connor, I saw your great video with the hyenas, and the comparison that you were making of just the hyenas, the lions, and the farmers. And I was like, wow, these guys. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about, you know, the resilience of the industry, trying to help people out where we can, talking a lot about like what we want to fix with this industry, because it ain't great. And I think we can do better with a lot of things. And it seemed like you guys were in the like mind of that. So I would love to start out with getting kind of the top down story. What is the story behind Thoughtful3D?
Ooh, that's it's a longer one, so I'll try to make it brief. I started working as a teacher in a college in Vancouver, and there I was helping people do lighting and texturing and rendering and compositing and that kind of stuff. And what I found was that, I'll be very blunt, and hopefully like this is not
Please.
a problem, but I found that a lot of the people that I worked with at the school didn't have a lot of great experience, and they weren't doing a great. Oh, wow! Oops, sorry about that. Umbrella just fell over. They didn't have a lot of great teaching that was setting up students for success, right? And we know that a lot of the schools, as they are now, have a really vast disparity between their claims and the outcomes of their graduates.
Yeah.
And I found that really appalling and offensive, and it really made me mad. And so I was angry and I was devout, so I decided to, I started my own Discord server where I would just help the students of that school kind of in the after hours, and continue to give them the education that I felt that they needed, which was genuine education, but it was still about software and tools and that type of stuff. And over the years, that Discord grew, and then it seemed to make sense that I should probably start some type of school. And I did start a school and was still teaching software stuff, techniques. And ultimately, over time, I realized that that type of information wasn't the information that was making the difference for people in their careers.
Yeah.
That the experience that, people like you, people like Cash, people like I have, is much more valuable and much more transformational than just like, these are the buttons you should be pushing.
Yeah.
And so it slowly started to turn into kind of like career therapy and art therapy, and how to like how to overcome like internal blocks and make sure that you're not getting stopped by procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, the things that affect us all, but some of us have been able to push through and get the results on the other side of.
Yeah.
And over the years, it just sort of changed over time. And about a year ago, I basically committed to being like, we're not going to talk about anything technical, nothing. If it's technical, it's on YouTube, it's on Google, right? Well, we don't
find in the documentation,
Yeah, read the documentation. It's there. The freaking companies that make this software are very thorough. Like, you could just read it.
Yeah.
And about that time was when Cash started joining these calls, because his experience is so very different from my experience. He's worked in so many, and I'll let him tell you, what he's done. We got a very small, brief window into his experience, at the beginning in the introduction. But, Cash and I have actually worked together on a lot of different projects. We were DJs together for years.
DJs?
Yeah.
DJs, yeah.
Oh man, we didn't get any DJ Cash at RealFX. What's up with that, man? That would have been great.
I could have.
What is up with that? Yeah, why didn't that
I
happen?
was worried about performing well enough to stay.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Turns out it was fine.
But yeah, it's a great point that we're talking about this now, because it's like one of the things that brought Cash and I together, like I don't know, 14 or 15 years ago, was that we both had this massive love for music. And
Still
and
do.
it's interesting. So it's still do, yeah, still talk about it all the time. And so it's like it's not like you can go to a college right now and it's like, well, how do I network and how do I make connections and how do I get job security and how do I do that? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, talk about music with people. It's like nobody's giving this like broader life skills, communication skills, networking skills, like kind of the how to be. Cash said this really well the other day, like how to be a human well in the digital age.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that has really made the biggest difference in my career and Cash's career. And so, once we made that commitment to be like, we're not touching software anymore, we're not touching technicals. It is just purely going to be about these other things. And some people call them soft skills, but I'm not in love with that term. Like, I think it's a very surface level way of looking at it. I think it's more like internal skills.
Yeah.
But once we committed to that, Cash just kept coming to these calls and he kept helping our clients, and it's like was
That's cool.
really transformational for them in ways that I couldn't be. And then it just became very obvious, hey, we should make this an official thing and we should work together.
That's so cool. No, I'm glad too. Like, I don't really like the term soft skills either, because sometimes, like, we've had a similar kind of, we have these office hours at VFX Talk like once a week where we just kind of open forum. If you're working on something, you want to share, get a critical feedback was a big thing we wanted to work on, of just how to give a good constructive critique, which I don't consider a soft skill, but I think some people will. I think that's like a foundational skill. And then there are a lot of things that pop up in these calls too for us of kind of that therapy ish. Maybe we're coming at it, we are kind of in a PTSD mode as an industry. It seems like a lot of artists shell shocked and reevaluating things post COVID, post strikes, post, everything's kind of gotten reshuffled. And we've had a lot of conversations about like how to set boundaries, like how to start guarding yourself to prevent from burnout, to have a long career, to not, just chase credits. Got that great one, but you only can last 5 years, and now you have an ulcer. And that's not an abnormal thing in the industry. You hear about that stuff all the time. And we're like, we have to really reevaluate things. So I think it's very courageous of you to say, we're not going to do software. Anybody can click the buttons. We're going to teach you how to be like artists, in a digital world. I love the way you put that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cash, I would love to hear some of these magic words that you've been telling people that make them, start going.
I've just been realizing that our industry's hard. Everyone knows this, right? But there's a lot of young people who get into our industry that are like, I just want to make movies and etc. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Look at that great thing. I want to work on that. And then they realize to do that, you have to do like 80 hours of overtime a week, and it's just like really hard industry. The realizations are different than what people tell you they are, especially if you're in a for-profit school, for example. And having these, like, I started joining Thoughtful3D basically for fun because I was feeling like I wasn't capable of, I was doing some mentoring a little bit here and there. I mentored like individuals over time, and they did really well. But I felt like I could do so much more. Like I felt like I was being underutilized.
Yeah.
And so I started joining Conor's conversations just because I could, I wasn't getting paid to do that. I wasn't there was no benefit to me.
Yeah.
It was just like, because I could. And these people were like, holy crap, I want to ask you so much. And I'm like, great. I wish I had this for me whenever I was young, Or when I was like trying to get from a junior to a mid or a mid to a senior, there's lots of like conversations you have with friends that you just kind of learn. But to do that, you need experience and time, and like there's so much effort, and you have to be social, and you have to be on top of your interactions with people all the time.
Oh yeah.
Maintenance of your social life and professional life, it's a whole thing. And it's really hard to do when everyone's struggling to even find work, you know? And so I found just a few months ago that like I had this opportunity to like really put in a ton of effort into this.
Yeah.
And really be like a voice of change in our industry, and trying very hard to not just grow other people to help other people stand up taller, but also like it'll help me be that way too. It'll give me purpose. It'll give me growth. And it's been just like really transformative. It's been really good. It's been really great. And it's very recent. You know, it's only been a couple of months that I've been doing this full time with Connor. And it's really a big part of my life now.
That's so cool. I love the mentorship aspect of it, because I don't know about you guys, but I was really worried in that post-COVID remote world, that mentorship, that in studio, that senior level artist that could then mentor that junior artist, kind of bring him along. I didn't see how that was going to work. Like, that's such a big part of our industry. And I was really worried it was going to be like an, endangered species. It was going to be more rare to have that mentor apprentice, that relationship that really was important for me as well. Like, I'm only here because I had good mentors.
Yeah. I had the same thing when I was at Pixar Canada in 2010. I had multiple people that are like, I'm going to teach you everything, boy. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, that's great. How did this happen to me? Exactly. But like, yeah, remote, that makes it impossible. You don't have meetings unless they're scheduled. You don't have conversations with people and grow. So it's honestly, the world we live in now is a lot harder for our industry to have people see the light. How am I going to get this next thing? How do I move forward? When you realize it's all about like networking and stuff, it's really hard to do.
Well, and it's things too, like how to do taxes, right? Like, you're now
international taxes.
International taxes. You're now running a small business. Like, that's the fact of it. If you do any freelance work, you're responsible for the taxes. You now have to start, itemizing all your expenses. That sounded like adult speak. That was just gobbledygook to me when I was a kid, and I was like, "Oh shit, I should have paid more attention."
Man, 1 year I worked in 3 countries in 1 year, and I just do 3 taxes in 3 different countries. It was just like a nightmare, so much work. But like, as a kid, you don't even think about that stuff. Someone entering into the industry, I don't mean age, really. I just mean like people that are like not used to our world.
Yeah, no child labor laws. Yeah.
No, sorry.
I think that's just very important. Yeah, that you really have kind of nailed something there. Just like that, you got to pass it on, man. Otherwise, it's going to die. And we're an industry that's already been kind of knocked on our haunches, and we now have to kind of rebuild and think about, what do we want this industry to look like? And Connor, you had this really great video. We talked about in the pre-show, the hyenas, lions, and the farmers. And I feel like there's something in the air. I'm hearing a lot of those types of conversations, those types of videos, people offering those types of perspectives. That's, I think, is extremely important. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about, where do you see the industry going? Because I think we can all agree, if it's not going to be different, it damn well should be different. And we have these opportunities now for more artist run micro studios popping up. We keep hearing that on the forums, micro studios. And it's just these little ragtag groups of 4 or 5 artists that are badass and have all the tech, and they're all over the world, and they come together for projects, knock it out of the park, and go away. And they just kind of do that around there. Where do you see the industry heading? What's our trajectory? What do you think?
This is such an awesome question. And I think that the best way for me to answer is actually to speak on the pain that we were just talking about with COVID, remote, that disconnect from mentorship, that disconnect from guidance. We're no longer in studios together. We're not like, and that
And
was
then
one
the
of those
strikes.
things. Yeah, and then the strikes, and then and then guess what? How about we have generative AI? Let's throw that into the mix.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? And it's just like kick after kick after kick. And one of the things that I think is a really big opportunity here is that the studio mentorship model was working. It worked for you, it worked for Cash, right? You guys had somebody to hold your hand and walk you up the ladder. And because that was cut out, we had to build new systems in order to accommodate that need. And because we built new systems to accommodate the need, those systems are actually stronger than they were before. Because now I think the mentorship, yeah, it's remote, sure, it's on Zoom, right? But we're also able to facilitate dedicated time to growing in this way. And it doesn't have to be one-on-one. It can be in a community of people where everyone is showing up at the same time with similar problems and being like, hey, I need help. And someone next to them is going, I had that same problem. I can help you. Or even better, sometimes it's, I can see how that will be my problem. And I'm going to start working on it now before it becomes a problem for me. So the mentorship is actually like, it took this massive hit, but because we focused on it, it's now better than it was.
Interesting.
And I think that's the same thing that's going to happen in visual effects. In the industry in general, in entertainment, we were all in this race to the bottom system, right? And like I said in that video, we got there. We're here now. We're at the bottom.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, we made it.
Yeah, we made it to the bottom. And so I hope, here's my hope. I'll tell you like what my hope is, and then what I think the most likely vision is, and then like what we're doing in order to try to push the needle in that direction. The hope is that this is a lesson, right? Because I think, much like the pandemic, that threw a lot of shock into the system, right? And I think that also created those opportunities to learn, right? It was a big reset, being like, wait a second, I really don't want to go back to normal. Normal wasn't actually working for me, right? And there's been a big push of return to office and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, but there's also been a push back against that. And that was just not leverage that we had before the pandemic. Sorry, I'm not leaving my dog.
Yeah.
My dog is used to me hanging out with her. Okay?
Yeah, your dog, I saw it in the background.
Yeah, was she back there? Yeah, she's right behind me. I don't know. But yeah, so some of that pain has turned into leverage, has turned into wisdom, right? And ultimately, like you're talking about these micro studios and stuff, well, the burden is definitely on the artist now to learn more skills, to develop their stability, to learn more about their value, right? It's to make that transition from hyenas that need a lion to win the hunt on their behalf after the lion has eaten the lion's share. And before that was enough. For 15 years since I've been in the industry, and even longer for many, of course it's gone up and down, it's ebbed and flowed, but that's largely been enough. And when the planes start to clear out, that's not enough. And so we must learn more skills, like taxes, sure, financial stuff in general. That's invoicing, accounting. You got to have a sole proprietorship now, or an LLC, a corporation, or something like that, right? And ultimately, because things are hard, we are forced to level up. And it will make us stronger overall if we accept that challenge and grow in response to this. And that's what we're trying to do, is being like, okay, yep, times suck. So let us not focus on fixing the times. Let us focus on upgrading us. And the second and third order consequences of that is that the industry gets healthier in general. The giants that are these massive corporate culture machines are now not the only way to create a living.
Yeah.
And sure, entrepreneurship is absolutely hard, right? But it gets easier every day. I mean, this podcast that you're starting here, this is an entrepreneurial endeavor, right?
Sure.
You own
Yeah.
this. And part of the reason why it's possible is because it's hosted on a video conferencing software, which is relatively affordable, and cameras and microphones that are relatively affordable. You can post it on a platform that doesn't charge you anything to upload it to, that everyone has access to. It's like, this is actually becoming easier. And because the traditional way doesn't work as well, let's just start going our own way.
Yeah.
And in that, we have to make sure that we are not going to fall into the same race to the bottom bad habits, which means we need to kind of instill healthier, longer term business practices into artists, should they decide that that's what they want or that's what they need for their career. And then ultimately, a decade from now, 2 decades from now, 3 decades from now, the unhealthier systems will have pittered out. And honestly, I think it's like, it's death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, if you have a massive studio that is bleeding money year after year and laying people off, and then those people, as they start their own companies with the assistance of technology and learning about marketing, learning about sales, learning about project fulfillment, learning about accounting, learning about those fundamental tenets of being independent, then you do that 1,000 times or more, those bigger companies, like, they start to bleed.
Yeah. It's the power of consistency, right? Like it's the power of community. I know this podcast, this Discord, it was a crazy idea to start. I'm sure you guys probably felt the exact same way when you're starting your own stuff. It's a crazy idea to wave your hand up and say, like, anybody else feeling the same way? And anybody else want to talk? And I've been more surprised about how surprised I was reaching out to people saying, like, hey, do you want to come and like have a conversation? Like, let's talk about this stuff. Anybody, just send it out. Like, let's hit the bat signal and let's talk about stuff. And I have not gotten one no. I haven't gotten one big league. I haven't gotten blown off once. Everybody has been very generous with their time, because VFX artists just love to share. And I think we've all felt that pull. We felt that pull
part
apart
of the community.
And we want to come back together, right?
Bigger.
Yeah. It's so powerful. I commend you guys for feeling that in the air. Like I think that's a really strong headwind to get us in the right direction. If we start talking about not only what makes the industry healthier, but also that, the artists are the industry. We should be talking a lot about what makes the artist healthier. Like if the artist is happy, I'm telling you, like, I don't care how much money you throw at a shot. I will show you a small budget shot with an artist who's fucking loving, that, like, really into it, putting all of that feeling into that shot, and you're gonna have a better result at the end. Like, I think Cash, you've been at Pixar, so I don't think there's ever low budget shots.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've worked at other places too, but
yeah,
I've been around for a while.
Yeah, you've been around. Yeah. And speaking of being around too, you were just at SIGGRAPH, correct?
Yes, I was just at SIGGRAPH. I love going to SIGGRAPH.
Another big community. Yeah.
It's all about the community. Next year, me and Connor are getting to get involved with SIGGRAPH, so that's gonna be fun.
That's great.
Maybe do a birds of a feather of our own. Who knows?
I love it.
Yeah, and I have a close working relationship with SIGGRAPH, because that's how I got my first job.
SIGGRAPH, really?
Right. Yeah, it's a very.
I don't know that story.
SIGGRAPH should pay me for this story, but yeah, it's. I was at school in Noman in LA in 2010. I graduated, and I went to the LA SIGGRAPH, and I was for like no money. I had nothing. And I found someone on the booth floor. I wanted to show them my work. Someone from Pixar. I just wanted someone to see it and see what I had. I had my work printed on photo paper, because I couldn't afford an iPad. iPads were new back then. And then I showed it to this person, and they're like, oh yeah, this looks cool. Can you tell me about this? Tell me about that. It was kind of like an interview. I didn't know at the time, but like I was just like talking to them, and they're like, yeah, well, this is really good. How do you feel about moving to Canada? I'm like, I've literally never considered it before. I have no idea if there's an industry there at all or whatever. That was Chris Fowler, who
Mr. Fowler, absolutely.
who was the lighting supervisor at Pixar Canada at the time, and they were starting a new studio. And so like that plus a bunch more interviews, and I moved to Canada. But like that connection came from randomly meeting him at SIGGRAPH, and talking to him about work.
Incredible. And he brought you down to VFX. Like he was the guy who was like, you should talk to this Cash guy. We need to get shots done. Bring him down. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Whenever Pixar Canada closed, I was like trying to find a new thing, but I kept getting pushed away because I don't have VFX experience.
Yeah.
Not a lot of animation studios in Vancouver. So I'm just like, I'll just go to a place where people actually want me, and I'll move far away.
Yeah,
it was fine. It's great. It was a great show. Such a great project to work on.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I got to ask too, being a Pixar guy, and this was your first SIGGRAPH, did you get a teapot? That is a collection.
Oh, I have many teapots now.
You're like teapots, whatever.
Dude, this guy's a teapot farmer.
Weirdly at Pixar, it's like, yeah, I guess that's a toy, but it's just like so common, that it's not a big deal. But there are some people that are still like big collectors and stuff. But I'm very involved with RenderMan. I like being part of their events. I'm a judge for the RenderMan Art Challenge.
Yeah, you're doing the art challenge, right?
Now. Yeah, I did it last year too, and I just like being part of their like social engagement kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to be involved with that in the future, which is good. But I have teapots. I have a bunch of them. They're like there.
What was it like? What was it like going to SIGGRAPH? First time you went was when you're just starting out. You find somebody Chris Fowler is one of the nicest guys I know. Still keep in touch all the time with him. He's a wonderful dude. I was lucky enough to share an office with him towards the last couple of years at VFX. It was great. But what was that like? You went back to the place where you got your start. What was the vibe like? What was how was everybody's mood? Like what was
it wasn't the same place. This year was in Denver.
It travels,
And I've been to SIGGRAPH now 6 times, 7 times, something like that. And it's different every time. But if you go as a student versus going as a professional, it feels like dramatically different.
Yeah.
And the biggest comparison is like that time I went and met Fowler there. Poor student, never thought I'd get anything out of it. And then the very next year, same year, me and Connor met actually. It was in Vancouver, and I was like working at Pixar, so like it could not be more different and more recent. And it felt like it was such a big difference when you go as a professional, especially if you go for all the talks and everything. You go for the full event rather than just the floor.
Yeah,
you really learn a lot more. You meet a lot more people. You engage a lot more, and the more I go to events like that, the more I enjoy myself, because I learn a lot about our current industry in different ways I didn't expect. Like this year at Denver was full of, AI, no question, and AR and stuff, but there was also a lot of defense contractors there because Lockheed Martin is in Denver. And so like they use CG for everything, you wouldn't guess. So you walk around and you see people's tags that say Department of Defense, and you're like, what? Where am I? What is this? What is happening? I just make cartoons,
It's like that movie Toys with Robin Williams, just with the military rolling into the toy factory, and everybody's like, what is going on, man?
Yeah, it was fun though. I always like going, and I'm gonna go next year. It's in Vancouver next year. But I highly recommend it to anyone in our industry to go, even if you go for just like the floor, which is just like $100 or something. You always meet interesting people, no matter what.
Yeah, I really want to go. I haven't been to SIGGRAPH since 2009 when I was in New Orleans. And that was also kind of where I got my connection to VFX. It was just very similar. It's kind of like, hey, check out my reel. Which don't look at my reel. it was
I'm
really,
I'm gonna look right now.
It was really bad. But we were
see that.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Well, we do real reviews. We've been doing these fun things with the community of, part of the big VFXTalk mission was that constructive critique. And students have been like, hey, check out my reel. Like they've been volunteering, and we sit down and just kind of break it down gently. We point out the things that are working, what not working, and just getting them into that mindset. Because I worry that is another thing, along with mentorship, that the constructive critique is going to kind of die on the vine. And that is probably one of the more important parts of visual effects when you learn how to give it, because that's a biggie. I've had some supervisors who they have their own style. let's just say that.
Good way.
And but then we had some juniors like starting out on the first gig, and they would come out just crying or like devastated. Like, you didn't like my version 1 of my shot. Like, what is wrong? And we're like, no. So he might be saying things, loudly and with some expletives in the middle of it. But what he's trying to tell you is, here's how to make it better, because we're all trying to just make it better. So I worried that was going to be gone. Is that another thing that you guys are going to help as you mentor at Thoughtful3D, kind of getting students into that mindset? Maybe not for the software side, obviously, they can't just go to YouTube nowadays. I wish we had that, but like how to exist in a studio environment, but also this weird remote environment, like how to time manage and respond to Slack messages and, those types of things. Are you going to be focusing on those types of skills as well?
Honestly, like, I think at this point, post-pandemic, most people are pretty good with that already.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, we've been running Zoom meetings and Google Calendar events and Slack messages for 4 years. If it's still something you're struggling with, it's time to really ask why.
It's a good point, man.
Yeah.
But as far as like making
for new entries,
yeah.
We do some of that at Thoughtful3D, but it's not our focus. We help people make art, of course. We help people make their creative vision come to life. But teaching people how to take notes and give notes is way more important, because, like, for instance, as a lighting artist, like day in, day out, I get a chock full of notes. One day I do all of them. I go see my lead or supervisor, and they say, yeah, good, but also like, here's all this other stuff. And you're like, all right, bye. You have to understand how to make someone else's art, right? This is not mine. Yeah. That's where that that contention of students making their own art, coming out of school, they pull their heart into it and like, this is my art. I love it. Oh my God. And this is like my baby. And then as soon as you go to the studio and they're like, yeah, this isn't good at all, let's start over and like change everything, and I can see why that happens, but there's no real explanation as to that. It just happens right away, right? And so teaching people how to understand a critique, teaching people how to give a critique. We do a lot more of that, other than we talk about art and we show art and we, do, draw on top of them and stuff. But it's more an exercise in how to listen and how to internalize and how do I make this more like what someone else wants? Because that's most of our job, is not making what I want.
Yeah.
And so that's a harder lesson to learn than make this rim more red, like it's totally just a different thing. But I feel like a lot of schools don't really do that. They say, make a thing, make a CG car. Cool. That looks like a CG car. You've passed the class. You're like, that's not, technically you made a car. Cool. But like, that's not what most of our job is.
It's seeing your shot through the eyes of whatever supervisor's on that show with their own objective, preferences, their own eye. That is a really important thing. Connor,
it's an empathy thing.
It's an empathy.
Sorry, one more thing.
No, please.
There's commonly, not commonly, but there are some times where you strongly disagree as an artist with a leadership note.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know this is going to make it worse. And I know this is a bad idea. And it's going to make all these other things worse, you know? And you're just like, well, I just got to do that because this is not my project, you know? Like, and there's just like, as an artist trying to make things better all the time, it's really hard to understand where you fit in this pipeline that already exists for a lot of people that are new. And so just trying to get over kind of like the ego that comes with my art, my project, mine, and turning it into I'm making this for you. And if you change your mind, that's okay. You know, like we can adjust, we can grow.
Yeah. There's that service industry aspect of it, isn't there? Like you're doing it for somebody else, for either the supervisor or the audience. You know, you don't get to pick your, we were talking a little bit about, you don't really get to pick the show you're on, but you try to do the best you can, you know, and make it as cool as you can possibly make it within the time allotment. And that's really our job, isn't it? I had never really thought about boiling it down like that, but that's really true.
That's totally true. Yeah. Yeah, or it's the supervisor, the audience, or the client's goals, right? And it's not actually the client; it's actually the client's goals, you know, that you're in service to, right? Because the client might be like, "Oh, I'd like this to be read," and it's like, "Okay, yeah, but does that actually hit the goals that we described when we initially talked about working together?"
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, then I don't care if you want it read. Like what your goals need is for it to be blue.
Yeah.
Right. And if that's what it is, then that's what we have to serve. And ultimately, like the studios that we work for, big and small, they have clients. The clients have goals.
Yep.
They are using the studio or the work that you produce as a means to achieve those goals. Right. And you know, speaking about what you're talking about, you know, I think I misunderstood your question about this Slack thing. You know, like I totally got distracted by the details of it. But you know, when Cash was speaking, I realized that like one of the things that we're always circling around in this conversation and in our mentorship community is the practice of communication. That means like listening, understanding, reflecting, but it's not just through Slack or through Discord or through email or through whatever it is. It's also visually. It's also with composition. It's also with color choice. You know, we are trying to visually communicate an emotion. We're trying to deliver an emotion. Most often, that's the intention. I mean, even if we're working in advertising or marketing or anything like that, like we're still trying to get people to feel things. That's the essence of our craft.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can understand the fundamentals of communication, then it's a little bit easier to express them. And one of the things that we found very surprising, like Cash and I were just talking about this a week or two ago, it was like, a lot of the stuff that we don't know we're good at is the biggest things that are what the community needs the most or what our clients need the most. It's like, we had a good 3-hour conversation about emails, about writing emails. And like Cash is one of the best email writers west of the Mississippi. It's amazing.
I don't know if that's true. I misspell everything.
And honestly,
but it's about the intention. It's how the emotion you get across, right?
That's right. I mean, how many gigs have you gotten, Doug, that are as a result of you being a better email writer than the next person in line?
That's so true. Yeah. No, and it's the communication. And, you know, we're a small community, but we're global. And there's a great book called Culture Map that one of our users was passing around, saying it was very helpful to him because it talks about the different little idiosyncrasies of different cultures around the globe and different backgrounds, different ethos, you know, those types of things. They're like, you really have to know not only what your message you're trying to communicate is when you're writing that Slack or you're writing that email, but also like who it's going to and how you need to talk to them. And that's I think a lot of people miss that. I'm glad you're talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, man, what happened? That you didn't get the job? What happened? And they're like, okay, well, you said this and they said this. Okay, can we see that email? And they pull up the email and go, oh, that's what happened.
That's why you didn't get.
That's what happened. That did not work out. Do you see why that didn't work out? Okay, let's talk about it. You know,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like things that we don't even know that we have experience and years of development. It's not stuff that no one took an email course, no one took a communications course, but like over years of missed opportunities and earned opportunities, you start to figure out your way of doing it. And Cash has his way, and I have my way, and you know, it's actually wonderful how different they are, because we've both crafted, you know, really long, healthy careers, and we've done it basically as oppositely as you can.
yeah.
So it's very interesting to see, like, our advice is often on opposite poles from each other, and yet there's still like a Venn diagram overlap where it's like, okay, if we both agree on this, you know that this is the way things are done.
That's true. Yeah, because Connor makes his whole way, literally making his way, like inventing companies and stuff, and having clients in the metaverse and things like that. And I am fully studio, like almost exclusively animated features, big budget, you know. Yep. That's what I prefer to work in. Long contracts, big shows.
Yeah, me as well.
And I think that comes with stability, and I prefer that. But I say that having just been laid off, you know, like it's nothing's ever permanent, you know. And so it's more about this platform that we're building or have built already together, is both sides of the same coin. You know, we're still in the CG industry together, separately, and we're making very different choices for our particular careers, but neither one are wrong. And that's not a common kind of conversation you get to have especially if you're relatively young, is with people that are like, I do it this way and I do it this way, and both of them work. You know, it's kind of a unique kind of conversation base, I find.
Yeah. I have a similar story. I remember I went to SCAD. That was my big college, and you know, your video resonated with me, talking about, you know, these large schools that put a lot of debt on students. Yeah, it's true. You know, I learned a lot at SCAD, but a lot of the things I learned there was not the software stuff. It was those connections I made, those friends that I have. That's how you typically will get gigs in this industry, is through friends, because it's fun to hire your friends. I think that's just how it is. But I made the decision after SCAD, I could either go intern at Rhythm and Hughes or Zoic, which I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan, especially back then. So Zoic was like, Firefly. Oh man, Firefly, hell yeah, man, let's go. This is I was this young kid ready to like go make movies and TV shows, and how cool is this? But you wouldn't be doing that out in LA. You'd be getting coffee. You won't be getting paid. Oh no, you won't get paid. You're gonna have to figure this out. And good luck. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. So I got my first gig. Yeah. It was a scary moment. I think we've all had those moments where you feel alone and you're about to make a big decision, and you have to kind of commit to something. And I was lucky enough to find VFXTalk back then, and got my first gig up in Quebec, working on a dinosaur IMAX movie in Shake, and it was a stereo one too. So we had
in Shake.
yeah, it was gnarly. I was the grunt compositor that came in that copied the Left Eye script and all the rotos and everything. Made early stereo, man, before you had all of our bells and whistles. Wow. You know, but you have to make those. I don't either. I don't either. But you have to make these scary decisions that sometimes are counterintuitive, but they feel right to you. And you have to trust your gut. And then I saw some friends that couldn't do that. They needed to follow the straight and narrow. And most of them are not even in the industry anymore. They just got burned out. They got chewed up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah, those
we've all
scary
heard those
choices.
stories, right?
Everyone
Yeah.
has those scary
Awesome.
choices. I had one where I was struggling on a studio in Vancouver because I was doing lots and lots of overtime.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I just hated my life because it was like, this is all I do. I barely sleep. I barely eat, and I just work. And it's just like, is this the best this industry has to offer? I had a bunch of friends say, come here, it's great. And I'm like, I hate this, And I made this really strong choice to be like, I'm going to try something really far away. And I want to be really different, and I want to go really far away and try something different, even though I lived in Vancouver at the time, which is far away from my family already. And I went, that's when I took the job at Animal Logic in Sydney.
That's awesome.
Which is like, that can't be further away. It's really far.
It's on the other side.
It was for Lego Batman, and it was a really interesting show, really, really fun, that everyone was just like, yeah, Lego movie again, but with Batman, it's great, and it was such a good choice for me because it led to multiple more contracts at Animal, a place that I greatly respect and would totally work for again. They're just like a really awesome group of people. And it's just like, sometimes those big scary choices, you just trust your gut that this is a really good idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, it might burn you, but like, it doesn't mean your career's over. Just do something else,
Yeah, that's true. How do you see that? We used to have a lot more VFX studios until that race to the bottom, especially like the past couple of years. And there's a completely different landscape out there. And one thing that our users have talked a lot about is the disconcerting trend of private equity firms gobbling up studios, technology companies, and just draining them for all their profit. How do you see that? I mean, that sounds, Connor, like we'll keep going back to the animal metaphors, but that sounds like a dangerous Serengeti right there, with very few watering holes anymore. Like, how it's scary out there for artists. How can you? Is it by leading by example? Cash, making those choices. Connor, you've made your brave choices to get to where you are, starting different companies. Is that kind of probably more important than anything? It's just leading by example to say like, hey, it's rough out there, but this is how to keep your head on. This is the way you're going to get that next job. This is how you should carry yourself. What do you think about that in this new studio layout?
Do you want to take that, Cash, or did I?
No, I'm staying away from that one.
Should we skip?
Yeah.
All right, pass. Let me get in.
Yeah, pass. No, absolutely no.
Cut that part out.
Chomping at the bit to answer this. So, I think that being an artist has historically never been easy. And it's like, for the past 15, 20 years, an industry kicked up where there was a lot of demand, there was a lot of amazing tools, and it was relatively straightforward for somebody to establish a nice living by being a digital artist.
Visual effects. It was really, really big.
Yeah. And it was like, great. Like, that's awesome. I love that. I'm so happy that happened. But I mean, if we look at like historically, I mean, art goes back to cave paintings, right? And when people were painting buffalo on cave walls, it wasn't because they had so much free time and they had such a great living and like things were super easy then. It's a necessary part of being a human being, is being creative. It's not a frivolous thing. It is an essential part of humanity. And it has always been that way. And now we say, oof, really hard times. And I go, yeah, absolutely. Hard times that are going to demand flexibility from you. They're going to demand adaptability. You might have to get income another way, right? You might have to take a break. You might have to learn new things, right? it's not a craft that is just like, don't worry, we'll give you a Wacom and a Adobe license and everything's gonna be fine. And honestly, like, I'm not celebrating the difficulty, but I do honor and celebrate what it demands of us in order to be able to serve that. I mean, it's not easy. Sorry, it's not easy. Neither is, like, it's like, okay, well, there's an industry for basketball players. It's very small, right?
Heard about it.
You can still, you can still play basketball. Like, enjoy basketball. It doesn't mean you need to put so much pressure on your basketball or on your art. You don't need to put it in a vice in order for your living to come from it. Like,
so there's other areas that VFX artists are skilled to go into when they need to.
Mhm.
We're resourceful. We're resilient.
I mean, how many softwares do you know?
Yeah.
Some aren't even around anymore, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I know an artist that when the pandemic hit, they got laid off and they started a bakery, and they're a lot happier now being a baker than they ever were as a compositor.
There you go.
Right. And I'm not saying we should all go and be bakers. What I'm saying is, like, look, making a living as an artist may at times require you to do things that are not art. And that is so okay.
So fine.
It's not only okay, it's like, hey guys, like, if all of our life, like Cash, you were saying you were working 60 hours a week, lots of overtime, just art your whole life long. Like,
Art
what
for
are you
somebody
doing?
else too.
Art for somebody else. Yeah, exactly. Like, is that what we wanted?
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, why don't we make, if we've been laid off, we need to find a way to make income, right? That could be through art. It doesn't have to be through art. We have a client who's a substitute teacher. Amazing, right? Now, we as artists need to live life. Thus, we have something to create art about.
Yeah.
It seems quite obvious, right? I mean, like if you are a substitute teacher for an elementary school for a year or two, you don't think that's going to inform how you make a Disney movie? You're going straight to the audience. Like, that's where it comes from. We need to, it's like, oh, we got to take a year off. It's like, okay, take a year off, become a fisher, like, or a baker, or an entrepreneur, or a graphic designer, or I don't know, like, as someone that works as a solutions engineer at a tech company, like, figure out sales, figure out something.
Yeah.
That way you can still stay creative in the rest of your life. And then when you've advanced your creativity and you advance your skills, you'll be able to pour life into your art again. And we go back to that conversation earlier you said about the difference between art that is made from a place of joy and happiness and passion, and also experience and wisdom. I mean, you look at the biggest movies and the biggest video games, they're not like, we're past Pong, right? We're talking about big things, big emotional things. The biggest movies of the year, like Inside Out 2 and Dune 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you seen those movies? They're not about light topics. These are rich with life. So go live for a while, and then you can make art about what you experience, the human journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me a long time to realize that, like, I wasn't my, it sounds simple. I'm not my career. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter where you're working at. There's some really big studios, Cash, Pixar. That's about as big as you can get in the 2D, in the 3D, 2D animation. That's it.
But yeah, again, learning that this is a big thing for me and for a lot of people, I think, is that you are not your job, right? Your value does not come from your employer. It might amplify your voice for a period of time. It might amplify your message for a period of time. Like, I can talk to anyone on the street and say, yeah, I worked at Pixar for 6 years. And they'd be like, holy shit, I know exactly what that is. But that doesn't mean if I don't work there, I'm not a good artist anymore. You know, like,
not at all.
That association with, like, this is great, and so I need it to be great, is really, really negative. And it's a big part of our career. A lot of people see that way. And I think that's told a lot in schools, maybe not those exact words, but there's a lot of like ladder climbing and stuff, that type of mindset. And
Yeah.
I just feel like it's such a dangerous kind of unhealthy way to look at our careers, because it can lead you down paths of, if I'm not at this place, if I'm not doing this movie, I'm not worthy, I'm not good, which is just like a negative kind of emotion. And I try hard to not do that. And I try hard to teach that as well. And it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to get used to.
Man, I think we all went to therapy during COVID, didn't we? I went to therapy. We've all been working on ourselves. Sure. It's a really big thing, and it makes me so hopeful hearing all of these very common stories, very common experiences, because it can be lonely sometimes in this industry. It can feel isolating. There's different pockets. You're up in Vancouver. I was in Texas. We've got California. We got the East Coast. We've got some studios in Florida. It's almost like this weird little Middle Earth map of all these different visual effects kingdoms. And they can feel very like islands, but we're all connected, man. And I love that you guys are helping each other. You're walking the walk, I think that's probably more, that's going to be more helpful than anything, just for your mentees. Is that the right word? Mentees?
I think so.
Sure.
Community members, clients, mentees.
It sounds like a breath mint. So I feel like there's going to be a better one. But I think they're going to get so much from that over at Thoughtful3D. And I can't thank you guys enough for doing that scary thing and starting something and trying to do your part to help. That's you guys really should be proud of yourselves, because it's really, really cool that you guys are doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah.
And dude, I feel exactly the same way about you. I mean, I've known you for about an hour now, and I can tell that, just in our little pre-show chat, where this is coming from. And that's why it's so easy to have this conversation with you, because if I know where it's coming from, then, and I know where we're coming from, then it's just really easy to see, hey, we've actually been on the same journey for a while now, and we're both taking those steps. And I think that what you said earlier about leading by example, I think that you're doing that. I think that we're doing our best to do that too.
Yeah. And I'm doing my best to do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it does require bravery, and it does require flexibility, and it does require adaptability. But ultimately, we know where we're coming from. We know why we're doing it. And that, I think, is it's just a deeper motivation and fulfilling purpose than let's help somebody get their next job that they can work overtime at, and and feel depressed and
on leave.
we had one.
Yeah, perfect.
We had one member join student, and then we got to see him switch his title to pro. That was like a big role change, because he got his first internship at Frame Store, and he was coming on earlier on in the weeks, going on their office hours, and just kind of what's it like, guys? What do I need to expect? How do I do I break out the DJ table, or do I just try to focus on making the best shots that I can? Both. Should have done both. Yeah,
absolutely both. Yeah.
But we kind of guided him through it, and just kind of not be nervous. It's fine. Best thing we could tell him was always admit when you don't know something. The smartest people I've ever worked with are very comfortable saying I don't know. Let's go find out. That kind of growth mindset's really big, and it was really rewarding to see that happen. And I can only imagine, you guys are seeing that all the time. And I think that's really cool. You're building that better industry, and that next generation after us after we've had a lucky enough long career, like what's next after that?
Trying to.
Yeah, trying to hold on.
Yeah, these people that we're working with, these awesome artists, like it's incredible. Honestly, it's like, it's leveraging Cash's experience across all these different studios and all these different interviews and all these different applications and all these different networking events and all these knowing that if someone can access that wealth of knowledge, and of course as well mine. For some people, it's like, wow, okay, I'm gonna teach you in 5 minutes what it took me 8 years to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
can't wait to
wow,
tell you
okay.
this thing that'll change your life that took me years and years to figure out.
Yeah, years and years, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, like of time and debt and practice and experimentation. And it's just like, okay, you know what? I can boil all that down to a single sentence, and I'm going to give it to you. Here you go. And it's like, wow, they're going to be so much better than us in no time. Like, by the time
3 years, I'm really
8
worried.
years, yeah, wow, and that's what you hope for, right? That's pointing back to what is the future of the visual effects industry? It's like, well, if we have juniors that are better with boundaries and better with negotiation and better, it puts upward pressure on the studio owners, right?
Yeah.
And if we have mids that become seniors that are better seniors, and if we have seniors that become better communicators, so thus they be better supervisors, and earlier I was saying, death by 1,000 cuts to the big studios. I don't want the big studios to go away at all. I love the big studios. They've employed all of my friends and family. So I'm a huge supporter, but I definitely think that the way to make the industry a healthier place is by taking individuals aside and being like, this is how you specifically gain more stability, autonomy, and self-esteem and health and confidence, mental health, communication skills, and then help them as they interface with the industry, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and the next, and it should ripple. And that is our hope, and that is our intention, that the second and third order consequences are that the industry is less of a race to the bottom environment. It is more friendly to newcomers. And ultimately, it is creating the beautiful transformational art that makes the world a richer culture to live in.
That's so true. Right. And click.
Killer.
Well, speaking of, we since we're coming to the end, I always like to. So we fixed the industry. We figured it out, guys. So now we can talk about.
Congratulations.
Done.
Applause all around. It was really easy. Surprising it took so long.
Just a conversation.
But I would love to hear upcoming movies, because we had a guest. She's a VFX production coordinator over at Warner Brothers. She's so passionate about the industry, and her secret to it was I go and watch movies every weekend. I go to the movie theaters and I enjoy the ritual of it and seeing the big screen, just like she did when she was a kid. She kind of reconnects to her love of VFX that way, and I think it's important. So I would love for you guys to talk about the one movie coming up you're most looking forward to, or the one you just saw that was badass. Anything you want to pass along?
Well, I am going to promote things I worked on. How about that?
Hey, do it. See?
No, my next big thing coming out is called Win or Lose. It's a TV show on Disney Plus that picks up.
Yeah.
And dude, I think it's truly outstanding. I think it's some of the best shit we've made in a long time.
That is amazing.
But as far as outside of stuff I've worked on, I'm looking forward to the new Tron, because I like Tron and it's cool.
I like Tron too.
I just heard Ocean's 14 is getting made, and I'm excited about that because I love Ocean's movies. But I think those are all kind of far away. But it's hard to tell. But I get excited for a lot of things. I watch a lot of content, as all of us do. So
yeah. And it shapes the way you see the world too, right?
Totally.
My wife and I went. I love Ocean's 11 too, and we went to Las Vegas a couple weeks ago for the final show of Dead & Co. at the Sphere. And it was like my first time in Vegas, and I was thinking it was going to be the Ocean's 11 Bellagio. I was so excited. Man, no.
So
Las
sorry.
Vegas is like, guys. So
Connor's from Las Vegas.
Are you?
Hometown. Yeah,
Oh man. Yeah, no, it was so
get it.
hot. I don't know how you existed in that heat. And
So is Texas.
yeah, but it was a different type of heat, man. And the man, yeah, it was a lot of pools, a lot of interesting people. It was an experience.
Totally. Yeah. No, I left. I left for a reason. I
You
moved
get
to
your
where
hometown
friends
shit.
all the time.
Well, Connor, how about you? What's the upcoming movie that you're like just jazzed about? Or have
So
seen?
like I am so it's not upcoming, but I was so into Inside Out 2. And
It's a great one.
dude, so like yeah, Inside Out 2 really felt like, to be honest, like, you know, I'm a big movie dude. I love movies. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so the closest movie theater is an hour and a half away.
So it's a trek.
We drove the 3 hours to see Inside Out 2, and it was so worth it.
Hell yeah, man.
Like, I just
That's
think that the depth of telling is so important now more than ever, you know? And like I'm not throwing shade on any of the movies that are made, because yeah, like anything that helps somebody, you know, escape and go through a little hero's journey for a couple hours and like experience a little mini transformation, it's like, well, yeah, we can't get enough of it no matter where it comes from. But I was definitely hungry for deeper stories that, you know, you'd mentioned therapy and all that, and it's like getting stories that have that level of emotional intelligence is really moving for me, and it's really what I want from cinema. I also saw, is it called Perfect Days? Emma, that movie that we watched, that indie film was about the janitor. Is that Perfect Days?
I haven't heard of
Perfect
that.
Days. It's an amazing indie film about a Japanese custodian, and it is
Wow.
it's very paced. So it's very like it's not of the Fast and Furious ilk. So it's a different type of movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very beautiful, and it's about a very deep thing, you know, and it's not implicit, or it's not explicit, it's implicit. And so you have to like really be present and watch it and kind of understand the story that is unfolding but not obvious.
Yeah.
So
I'm into
those are
it.
the things that I'm super into. Yeah. And Dune, I felt like, was also like that level of depth of storytelling, but it is explicit. It is very very strong storytelling. Like,
Welcome to Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh my God.
yeah,
Go watch Arrival. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Dude,
exactly.
Blade Runner should have been like a dumpster fire of like let's redo, like let's continue it. That should have been in any other director's hands. I don't think it would have performed like it did. It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely
It's great.
right.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm personally really looking forward to Beetlejuice. That's going on this weekend.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's doing good.
I have heard as well. There's less visual effects in it, which I'm all on board. I guess they did as much practical as they could, but the yeah, I know there's some visual effects in there. It's just hidden, like the way it should be, you know?
Yeah, hidden. Yeah.
Should never, yeah, we should never be known. We should be in the shadows. Well, so after this interview ends, I want to send people your way. Where can they find you guys? Thoughtful3D.com. Where else? Where else would you guys like to plug?
Thoughtful3D.com and LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and LinkedIn. Find them on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, again, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, for taking your time out. I'm not going to thank Connor because he's outside. Like, I wish I was outside. He's living the dream, man.
It's an absolute pleasure.
You should be thanking me. You got time outside. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I am grateful to you. Yeah. No.
I mean, he surfs every day. It's fine.
Oh, dude, that's great.
Yeah. I tried.
That's it. Hey, man, happy artists, right? Happy artists, happy industry. I can't thank you guys enough for all the stuff you guys are doing. I wish you Godspeed. Everybody needs to go check out thoughtful3d.com if this resonates with you. Come check us out at the VFXTalk Discord too. It's free. It'll always be free. It's just a place for people to come together and share knowledge and have these types of conversations. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go.
Seriously. Thank you so
it's great
much
meeting you guys.
for hosting us, and I really appreciate your time. This is awesome.
Yeah, and it was great catching up with Cash. It's been way too long, man.
Very long time.
I'll tell Fowler hi for it. I'm sure he's always keeping in touch with everybody. Are you keeping in touch with Fowler?
Yeah.
He's always around.
Yeah.
He's always around. That's it. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. You guys have a good rest of your day, okay?
You too. Catch you later.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.